Okay, moving right along, our next speaker here is Matt Barron. He's from a company who is rapidly adopting knowledge-aware techniques, and Matt has certainly been very instrumental in those adoptions. He's with BorgWarner, and far more important than that, I'd like to point out, we're going to have later on this afternoon the Cool K-Pack competition, and Matt is the reigning champion of the Cool K-Pack competition, so that's impressive. That's some serious esteem. So I hope everybody's ready for this. Matt has been in the automotive industry for 18 years with cross-functional experience in product engineering, sales, and most recently program management. In 2017, he was appointed to the position of Global Program Manager to help BorgWarner improve the execution of strategic program launches. Matt was tasked with leading a team to develop and globally implement a tool that would increase the productivity for the program manager function and create a global standard for the PM community to share key program knowledge throughout the organization. Wow. Matt has a BS in mechanical engineering from Kettering University and earned his master degree from the University of Michigan. So if you will please, Matt, join me.
Thanks. All right, everyone can hear me? This is on? All right, thanks, Dan. So again, Matt Barron, I'm with BorgWarner, Global Program Manager. Really looking forward to those brownies this afternoon again. Those were good yesterday. I couldn't stop eating them, so that's a highlight for me. But no, it's good to be here. We were here last year. My colleague, Andrea Amatori, presented on BorgWarner and how the product engineering function was implementing it across BorgWarner, the Morris Systems division. He gave a presentation on what they were doing, the success that they had. So we took it a step further and we wanted to implement it in program management. As a program manager, you're responsible for a lot of knowledge. And during a key launch of a program, that knowledge needs to be given to key individuals at instrumental times in the program to make sure you're successful. So we thought Auros was a great tool to do that, and it complemented our engineering group as well. So I'm going to give you a little background on what we did with our seed project, and then how we've implemented it and the feedback that we've had, and then some future opportunities that we see with the tool. So we're going to go through BorgWarner, Morris Systems, just to give you guys an idea of who BorgWarner is, the type of products that we produce, and where we are globally. We'll go through the seed project that we implemented and ran with the team, how we implemented it, and the timing we did, also an overview of the tool itself, and then some future opportunities that we see with the tool that we're very excited about and we're continuing to work on. So overall for BorgWarner, our vision is a clean, energy-efficient world. And I think that's very important because most people will read that and think that's our products, that we want to provide good products for vehicles so that we can produce zero emissions, electric vehicles, right, really supporting that. But it also goes into how we develop those products. We want to be very efficient on how we develop our products and how we launch them. The less costs, the less resources that we put into our launches and our development, the more successful the company is in the automotive industry. Our mission is to be a propulsion system leader for combustion, hybrid, and electric vehicles. So BorgWarner in total is about 30,000 employees globally. We have 68 locations in 19 countries. Last year we did $10.5 billion in sales. If you look at how we're structured, we're pretty evenly distributed throughout the globe. 24 locations in the Americas, 20 locations in Europe, and 24 locations in Asia. So when we're developing a tool, it's very important that English isn't the first, the language in every region. Most people aren't strong in that, so we want to make sure we have a tool that is robust for all the different regions so that when we roll out a process, they see value in using it. Also, when you look at the number of programs we're launching, we could have a program manager in Asia launching a very similar product in North America. We want to make sure that they're communicating. Right now we were relying on email, heavily on email and shared drives, which isn't always the best, to go find those files. So we want to make sure a tool would be able to communicate better globally. When you look at Morris, which is the division I represent, there's 5 divisions. Most people are probably most familiar with turbos when you think of BorgWarner. Morris Systems Our four main products that we have today are engine timing systems, our cam drive systems, the variable cam timing systems, our solenoids and actuators, and then our high-low drive chains, which are in all-wheel drive and transfer cases. We have 18 locations in 10 countries, so very similar to BorgWarner as a parent company, we're very global in how we're structured. If we look at our locations from the globe, you can see 6 locations in the Americas, 4 locations in Europe, and 8 locations in Asia. So again, we wanted a tool that would be used globally and that we could complement launches. If we were launching a product in Japan where a program manager was launching at that facility, we also wanted him to be able to communicate and share knowledge with the program manager in Ithaca, New York, that was launching a very similar, if not the same product to support our customers in their global programs. From an overview of the products, and I think this is very important because what Craig mentioned is we had 4 products that that we're strong in right now that we have in production. And then you can also see I've highlighted some new technology that we're introducing to our portfolio as well. But we don't know what we don't know, right? With the new products, there's a lot of lessons learned that we're going to have to capture. Maybe we'll have to adapt our process as we go into battery modules or onboard charging. And I think the tool that we've developed will complement that and be very able to adapt and capture those lessons learned and process changes as we get into new products. But the main thing about this slide is I wanted to show you we have a lot of products that we're launching in our portfolio. This is just for Morris Systems, and the tool is very able to handle that the way we've structured it with Auros. So when we started this 2 years ago in 2017, we looked back at our program launches and we found that we weren't excelling in them, right? There were always some fires that we had to put out, and the program managers were always scrambling to get the program launched on time and meet financial targets. So we took a step back, we implemented global program management to help with that, and we decided we need to look at a project, right? We need to take a step back, look at how we're doing it today, and how can we improve it. So we talked to the Auros team. We felt a seed project was something that could help with us. So before we started down that path, internally, we said, what are our goals? And when we took a look at it, we had all these processes in place today. So we had our program charter, which was in Excel. It captured a lot of information, volumes, start dates, timing, right? The engineering products, revenue, all this information in Excel. We're entering it one time. And then we have our gate checklist, which is using a lot of the same information. And then we're having to repopulate it. So which is the actual document that's up to date now? Did we update them both? Did we put the volumes here and not here? So it was creating a lot of work behind the scenes to update all these different tools that we had. So that was in Excel, the gate checklist. Then we have our program timing plan, which was in project, where we're entering dates again. And are the dates being updated, or are they lacking in the other file? So there was a lot of data chasing with all these different documents. We had our EOT document, which was also in Excel, and a report that we had to update for our leadership every quarter. So now we had to pull this data from the team, take away from the launch activities, update this with the status of each program, and again, replicate the same data that we had in the other files. And then we have our launch metrics, which was a monthly report that we were running. So you can see 5 different reports, 4 of them in Excel, all in different files. We would check the file out. There would be a data issue, right? It would corrupt the file. We'd have to go back and start over and have everyone update it globally. 32 program managers updating all these files. So it was a mess, right? And it was not the most efficient way to manage this launch and also our reporting. So what was our goal? It was to create a collaboration tool that reduces reporting, takes away from the program manager's time of reporting, data chasing, redundancies, and eliminates the need for Excel-based tools and storing them on SharePoint. The outcome of this would be we'd free up more time so that our program managers could work on launch issues and supplier issues to put the fires out before they turned into fires, right? Proactive approach. So what were our objectives coming out of this? This was what the seed project, the objectives for the seed project team was effectively manage the launch process. So we wanted to implement a system that aligned globally with our other functions. Our product engineering team had already been working with Auros for 2 years on this, and we're implementing in 2018. So we knew they had a good start, they had a good base, a foundation that we could carry on from. We wanted to improve gate review process. We realized that our gate reviews were not robust and people weren't following them. So we wanted to make sure that the leadership knew of our gate review process and we identified issues as they came up. We wanted to develop a standard template so that when we were onboarding people, we had new program managers coming on, we had guided work in the tool. It was a standard process that everyone knew how to do it. All the data was consistent. People weren't entering a date here that meant one thing and a different program manager entering a date over here that meant a different thing. We wanted reminders. The program manager has enough on their plate besides chasing every function on when something is due. So we wanted a system that would create reminders. And so for product engineering, if they have a DFEMA review coming up, it's due on September 30th. We wanted a reminder to go out and email and not the program manager to have to chase them down. We wanted to streamline the PDP process, our EOT process, our executive oversight review, and our metrics process. So we wanted automated dashboards. We didn't want to have to go out and ask the program managers, please update this month so we can create a report. We wanted the report just to generate from the data they were already using. More value add than just updating an Excel sheet. Essential storage for evidence in our gate reviews. So from an audit standpoint, each gate has evidence that we need to complete to check off that KPAC or unit of work. We wanted that evidence to be attached in the tool so that if a program manager left and a new one came on, you could go in there and see, all right, yes, my DVP&R has been completed, right? My quote's been completed by the sales team, and the evidence was right there. So what did this result in? This resulted in a target of a 25% productivity gain for the product management organization. And keep in mind, we had 32 active program managers who we had to train and roll this out to. We did do a study at the same time. So in this chart, you can see the yellow items are all activities that the program manager has to complete, and they're more of reports, non-value add work that they're doing for the organization. The green are the actual issues that help the program launch successfully. These are value add activities that we wanted to focus more on. When we polled our program managers, we found that 60% of their time was done on non-value add activities. We wanted to flip that. So 60% on the value add activities, so 62% was our goal, and 38% on the reports and actually the non-value add stuff that they were doing daily. So that was our goal with the seed project. At that point, once we had all that information internally, we sat down with the Auros team. We developed our program charter, which is a lot of the same information. We put together our timing, identified the scope and any additional activities that we wanted to gain if we had time or that we could add on to the seed project. And we identified a key team so that we know who was responsible for this project. So this was the first step in the seed project. The next step was to map out our process flow. So it's pretty easy for us internally to know what our processes are, but to map it out to someone else, I think that really highlights how well you know the process. So we went through, we created this high-level flow chart with the Auros team and put together what is our goal and what is our process at a high level. What do we need to operate and launch a program successfully? From this, they took it back and we put together some timing, right? So I think this is important just so everyone understands how fast a seed project can go. We broke it up into 2 phases. We had phase 1 of development, and then we had an overlap where we wanted to do some testing, prove out some global programs, get feedback from the team, and incorporate that in the tool before we released it. We targeted 9 months. We started in April, and we wanted to go live in January of 2019. So we were there. From a seed project standpoint, it went very quick. The part we underestimated was the testing. The testing and then the training and the data migration. The data migration took a long time. To take all 160 programs that we have and put it in the tool, it took a lot longer than we thought, just because we were chasing, making sure the data was accurate before we entered it. And then the training, there was a lot of Skype calls, a lot of PowerPoints, right, that we trained all 32 global program managers on how to do this tool, and a lot of questions. But we were ready in January. We ended up launching in April. So a little delay just based on the training. So from that, after all the discussions we had and met as a team, it was presented to us that a method would be the best way to do this, a method KPAC, for two parts. One, this is how the Auros team managed their seed projects and also their internal projects, which align to how we were managing our launches. And two, methods are awesome, right? We learned that yesterday. So this was a method. This is the view when the program manager logs in. This is in a team board, so it's a method KPAC that we turned into an assessment. So we have a template of a KPAC, a method KPAC that looks like this. All our gates, our EOT, our metrics, our lessons learned, our action items. And then we put it into an assessment for each program, and then into a team board for each program. So each program has its own team board and own assessment. And just to go through this quickly, we have the gates, the dates. So we noticed that when we were going through internally, a lot of people were moving dates, right? You get to a date that you set up in your master timing, you're not ready, you just push it out. And we didn't want that anymore. We didn't want people just to be able to move dates. So we put the flags in there to say, all right, here's your date. We have a master calendar now. And the nice thing about the flags is that if, say, the SOP is delayed by the customer, we can put a comment in there. The PMO can go in and say, all right, this gate was moved because there was a delay in the program, not because the program managers moved it. So there's a lot more visibility into what's going on in the program. And from a manager or from a PMO, from a director standpoint, they could go in and see visually. It's very nice because you can say, what's the health of the program? Are we on track? Are we green? Are all the flags on time? Are the gate reviews happening? Are they red? What's the issues? So quickly you can log in and see, are we on track or are there major issues with this program? So we had the flags for timing. We have each gate. So we have gate 0 to gate 6, which is our quote to end of 90 days after SOP is gate 6 when we close the program. So we have all 6 gates, 7 gates, and quickly each gate has an assessment, so you can go in there and see how many of the KPACs in that assessment are completed. So each, depending on what gate you're in, when you go into a gate 1, it's going to preload all the different KPACs that you need to complete gate 1. So as a new program manager coming in, I don't know the system, I don't know what gates I got to do. I come in, I go to gate 1, and it says, all right, now you have to complete this from supply chain, you have to complete this from sales, and you have all these different KPACs that you have to complete to successfully pass a gate 1. And we'll get into that in a little bit. But I think it's nice that you can quickly scroll over and see how many of your assessments are done in the colors. From an EOT standpoint, we wanted our leadership to be aware of what the program is. We broke it up into functions, and we just quickly rate each function, and we can add some comments, and then each quarter that's submitted to them and reviewed from a high level to say, what's the health of each program? Launch metrics, so these were, currently it was an Excel file on SharePoint. It always got corrupted, someone always did something. No one understood exactly what the metric was. In here, we were able to develop KPACs for each metrics with descriptions and then a rule engine so that we know it's not subjective, right? The program manager can't go in and say, yeah, I think I met this metric, but I missed the date, right? He can't make it green. He has to follow the rules, and we know what the actual status of the program is. And then 2 other things that we built in. We got action items, which replace offline Excel sheets for action items for the team, and then lessons learned. And this was very exciting, lessons learned for us, because from an organization, we said, yeah, we're tracking lessons learned. After the program launch, we would get together, review the lessons learned, but nothing, I don't think anything happened with them. To be honest and transparent, we were doing it just to say, check the box, right? And I think that we reviewed this yesterday, an agile corporation or process. If you don't change during your process, can you learn during the process, then you're not agile. It was agile BS, right, is what we had said yesterday. And so we were in that state. We weren't learning from our lessons. We were documenting them, but we weren't changing anything. So the lessons learned in here, every lesson learned that is tracked now goes to the PMO, and he can simply, or we're trying to work through it, he can hopefully put it back into a gate KPAC so that that lesson learned is now in the process. That's our ideal state, and that's where we're trying to get. So that's the dashboard. From a gate review standpoint, we went through the flags, the different colors, the health. You can't move the dates without approval is how we have it set up today. and if it is, then you have to add a comment. And then also the health of the gate. But to do a gate, we start an assessment, create an assessment, and then that assessment's there for the gate 3. It'll preload all the K-packs associated with that specific gate, and then we can see the summary. So some of this is from our training that we rolled out, so you'll have to. But the nice thing is that we have the header, which is a lot of the same information that we use and we were populating in each document before. So now we signify it's a gate 3. It's going to load those K-packs. We have an approval process with our PMO that we can add this in so that he can approve the gate before it's created. And then we also have this critical information here that's carried over between each gate. So it's automatically pulled in. We don't have to re-type it in so that we don't type in, for example, CVT, and we type in CTV, right? It's in there. We don't screw up. It's not something that can be put into a different way or someone names a program differently. It's all populated by itself, which is, I think, critical. So once we create this assessment, then we go in and we have all our K-packs broke out by function. So we can filter by function. We can see, all right, from the customer side of things, what's needed to complete this gate. We expand it. The nice thing is that at the top, we put in help text so that if someone scrolls over it and they say, well, what do I need? What's a description? If I don't know what it is, then I can scroll over and there's a description of what the description should be or what the document should be. So we've captured exactly what is needed for the team to complete this certain deliverable. And that's right here, the K-pack title, so that's the action that needs to be completed. The description and the evidence, so it tells you what evidence is needed and who is responsible, what function is. The nice thing is then we can go in and assign a champion, and we uploaded our whole Outlook user directory so that you can't type in either Matt Barron or Barron Matt. It has to come in as the same thing so that you can't have different tasks for different people or maybe miss the name somehow. So it's a pick from list for the champion. We can assign a due date. It pushes that out to the person so they know they have an action that's due to complete this gate and a target date. Then they have to evaluate the gate. This is up to the program manager to do, to make it green, red, or yellow. If it's red, it makes the whole assessment red. It's whatever is the worst case, which will highlight the box that color. Then from a tracking, so we can go in a team meeting each week. The program manager can go in and type what are the key next steps for this to be completed. They can also add their own notes in the discussion section, and they can attach the evidence once it's completed so that it's housed in there. If they move on to a different program or someone comes in, they can see the actual evidence from an audit standpoint. If there is an issue, they can raise the issue and make a task, which we can move on. We have a couple slides on that later on, and we discussed yesterday. So from an overall tracking standpoint, they can go in, they can quickly see how many elements are green. But from a leadership standpoint, I think this question came up yesterday, can we export this to a nice report for our leadership? So what we've been doing is we've been exporting into Excel, and we put this slide out here so that every program manager knows how to do it, and the format's the same. Once they get it into Excel, we just put it into a Word document. And then that document's out there so that we can review with our leadership every week in our gate reviews. And it captures the key information and what are the next steps to make it turn it either from red to yellow or yellow to green. So this was a way for us to get a Word document, something that we could save and publish in email if we had to. These are basic tasks that we ask the program manager to do weekly. Look at their flags. If there's any changes in the dates, let the team know or update the flags. Create whatever gate you're in, and you can work ahead if you want. If you're in gate 1 and you want to start on gate 2, you can start that assessment. Evaluate the EOT so that we know what is the real status of the program, and then update your launch metrics because we do a monthly report on launch metrics as well. So from a launch metric standpoint, we had the Excel sheet. There was a lot of metrics that people had to go in and enter. There was some confusion as to what the metric actually meant. Am I entering it correctly? So we were able to fix that by putting again, in our team board, in our master assessment, we had the launch metric tab. This is just a one assessment that goes throughout the life of the program. So you create one assessment, it's just constantly updated, it's a living assessment. And so once we go in, we can see how many are completed. And we use the rule engine to make sure that people couldn't make their own assessment, right? They can't make their own value, they can't override it. So if you go in and you say, I had a prototype build 1, I had 50 samples due, and I only shipped 48, then that's going to be red, right? You missed that prototype build. And that'll launch, your metric will always be red from that point on. You can't override it, you can't change it. We want to know, did we miss that day? And this is so we could improve, and we can do some data analytics later on, but we didn't want someone to highlight it and say, okay, I shipped 48, but the status is green because I feel like we had agreement and it was green, right? It's going to drive it red, and then we'll have to explain it and discuss it, which is good. It raises the visibility to the leadership, and then also how do we correct it in the future? Why are we missing shipments? That's the thing that we got to understand. So we do this for each function here. First time good, deliveries, our DVP&R, we signify if there's risk in our DVP&R, gate status, PPAP, and then quality incidents. So these are all our launch metrics that each month we pull a report into a separate tool called Click, which I'll go through, and then we publish that report to the leadership. And then again, there's help text that help people if maybe they're new to program management or English isn't their first language, that it can help understand, well, what is exactly needed with this metric? So from the window, if we went into a deliveries, we have the rule engine here, the rule process engine. It asks for, you can add discussion notes, but it will ask for, all right, how many were required and how many were shipped on time. So you can see in this case, there was 400 parts required. We only shipped 235, so that marks the program as red, right? That metric is red and will remain red. Also for PPAP, we had certain dates. So we had our supplier PPAPs that we wanted to track dates. So in addition to did we meet it or not, yes or no, we want to say, well, what was the due date that we originally set out to the team, and when did we actually meet it? So the dates were able to be entered in here so that we could go back and track it and look at it and see what happened. From a lesson learned standpoint, so this was something that was when we looked 2 years ago in 2017, we said we got to do a better job, a more robust lessons learned process. And so how we manage it today is we raise an issue from our lessons learned box here, and then we select, is it either an action item or is it a lesson learned? And we select lesson learned, we create a new issue, and then we can put the details on that specific lesson learned. And we can assign an owner, we can the priority, and then the goal here is that if I'm launching a similar product in a different region or a little later, I have access to these lessons learned and I don't have to go back and recreate the wheel on what did we do to resolve that issue. The end goal, which we're still working on, is getting this to go right into a gate checklist and make a KPAC to address this specific lesson learned. So this is more on the lessons learned. We can assign the product type so that we can do some more filtering and understand, all right, from a VCT standpoint, how many lessons learned did we have last month? What went wrong in our launches, on timing drive, on chains, and understand more from that, where should we focus? And then you can add comments, and then once we save it, it's there. And then from a global read across, if we just go into our issues and we find all our lessons learned, so a program manager or the PMO or the director of program management can go in and say, all right, I want to see all the lessons learned for all these programs, either in Asia or related to Ford or GM, and they can quickly find the lessons learned. I think we're all familiar with lessons learned, but what are lessons learned specific to us, project learning, experiences that we could put to future programs, changes to practices, procedures, and then valuable information and documentation. So these are just some of the benefits that we found with lessons learned, the transfer of knowledge to all the organizations, and then not to repeat mistakes on programs. So I think I'm just going to buzz through these real quick because we're a little tight on time. But it's just the important things here are it includes the cross-functional team, and in our team board we can do that. We can go through and we can make sure that product engineering knows there was a lesson learned, there was rust on a powder metal part, right? We know that for the future, how do we address it, and all the team is aware of it. Another thing that we did when we created the dashboard, the K-Pack, is we added the action items. So this was, we're not there yet on this, but the idea behind this was each program manager has an offline Excel sheet where they track everything on action items. We wanted to get rid of that Excel sheet. We wanted to put it in the tool since they're already using it daily. And so similar to a lesson learned, you raise an issue, you select an action item, and then you can put in here an issue and you can assign who is responsible, the description, and create a task is the main goal out of creating this issue. So that you could have multiple tasks. You could have supply chain having to do something with the supplier, sales having to get a PO from the customer, and you can document all those tasks in here in this section, which I think we went through yesterday in the advanced section. So we're trying to get the team to use this more. The functionality's there and we really like it, but we just haven't gotten it to take off yet. You got to really convert people over from the Excel and what they're used to using this. So we think there's a lot of value here. We're still trying to get there. So similar, also the Gantt chart. So right now we're pulling in, we didn't want to have to create a project and then save it on a shared drive in Microsoft Project. The team wanted to know what are the key dates. Engineering wants to know what's the dates. Manufacturing wants to know when do I need to have my equipment on site. So we wanted to create a master Gantt chart on the team board. Right now it's pulling in our gates. So you can see gate 0 to gate 6. These are the key dates and it lights up the color of the gate. What we're trying to do on the next slide here is incorporate more of the key program timing. So what we've done is we've developed an Excel sheet that we can import into the Gantt chart, and it has all the same events that we see on every program. And from that point, the program manager can then say, well, okay, this is the template I can use, but maybe I have to kick off a plastic arm and on a timing drive system. And on a VCT system, I have to kick off a powder metal housing. So there's little differences in the programs that they can adapt this, but this gives them a starting point that they can go in and enter these dates, and then it will fill the master Gantt chart. So engineering can go in and quickly and say, all right, well, what are the dates? I don't have to search in a shared drive or an email for a project file. I can quickly go to my team board and I see what are the key dates that affect me and my function. So right now, this is how we're using it. We're importing from Excel, and it's got our main deliverables, and we haven't implemented the functionality to where prototype kickoff should be 60 days after this. We haven't done that yet. I learned that yesterday. I think that's something we could add in. That would be helpful. But at this point, we're just importing from Excel. From Smart Tiles, the team really liked this, and this is what kind of delayed our launch a little, is we wanted to wait till the Smart Tiles came out. I think from a user interface, this was very helpful as we trained new people that they could, because when we had our small testing groups, they were kind of confused on where to go, but this helped greatly when we launched it for 32 people to come in and to a brand new tool and understand, well, where do I need to go? So most of the time we go to our team boards. We click here, we go to our team boards, and then you can see we have 164 team boards that I can see, but only specific to your programs. Two things we did create was we created a team board for training. So it's just a team board that has no specific programs, but anyone can go in. It's live. They can't really mess with the program. They can try different things. So we created a team board for training. And then we also created a program dashboard team board, which just has reports. No other information. It just has reports on how many products are we launching per product line, how many different locations are active. So it's a quick executive summary that they can go in and they see, for overall, this is globally what's going on with program management, our launches, which we thought was very helpful, so they don't have to dig through the data and try and find it. So from a future opportunity standpoint, we implemented Click. So BorgWarner has been very active with Click for what we've been doing with our supply chain and financials. We've used Click now to bring the data in from Auros and create reports. So we have two right now. We have a metrics report that we do monthly. And the nice thing is it brings the data in every day. And then we have a freeze date where we say, all right, for September, the data's frozen, and we can go back and look and see, all right, for August, how did the data compare to September? So that's how we're using our launch metrics. We're bringing it in to that report. And then we also have our gate dates, which is a report that just lines up by month how many different gates we have. Are we hitting those gates on time? Are they approved or are they not? And so we can do a little review and see how we can better so that we pass more gates on time. So that's one thing that we've implemented. We just launched it this month. The team we're still getting feedback on that. Integration with other functions. So right now, product engineering is in it and program management. We would love to have manufacturing in it. We would love to have supply chain in it, but we're still working on those value equations and how we implement that many more people and what are the real outcomes that they want to see. What's their business case to implement into the system? So we're working on that. It would be an ideal state if we had every team member in there using it, and then we could just push out knowledge to each team member. From approval workflow, so right now we have weekly meetings where we approve our gates. We're working on offline approvals and how we can do the workflows so that we don't have to meet with our leadership each time to get approval on a gate. We can just send it out and ask for approval in the system. Increase robustness of the lessons learned process. So I think we talked about that. That's something that we're really striving to do. I think it would help us greatly. And then the other thing is risk management. So right now we have a risk register that we keep in Excel. The team meets before the program, before it even is kicked off. We identify all the risks, the possible risks, and we do that as the team meets. We'd like to do this in the tool to manage all the risks and assign tasks to mitigate those risks. We're still working on that. I think we're close, but it's something that we hope we can get into the tool as well soon.